Thankfully, the rest of the building was and drive away from this blast scene, possibly saving all of their lives, Rory.
Yeah, unbelievable. So once again, 11:30 now. We are 5 hours post this shocking explosion at about 6:30 this morning, Christmas morning, a quiet morning. Folks waking up to enjoy time with their families after what's been an incredibly challenging year, and now this news as well. All right, the Department of Homeland Security just tweeted about the explosion here in Nashville. They say, quote, "We are aware and monitoring the situation in Nashville. Public is urged to follow instructions from local officials more to." We've heard from the White House, we've heard from Governor Lee and various leaders, including Congressman Cooper. We've heard from Freddie O'Connell, the Metro Council districtman.
This has been a News Channel 5 special report.
District 19. So many people responding.
Shit happened about 30-45 minutes from where I'm at.
We heard from Don Aaron, the spokesperson for Nashville Police Department, and
blew the whole front of the fucking building up, damn near a whole block.
More information as it comes in. Obviously, it's a very fluid situation. Crews on the ground and Sky 5 giving you these incredible shots of one of the prettier streets in downtown Nashville. Tree-lined, lots of shops, mixed-use area with condos up above some of the shops and restaurants. There's a parking garage there that Henry mentioned before. Henry, you were here this morning, heard the explosion, you and Ben Hill, or felt it, and we feel a lot because we are down below the ground here in this studio off on James Robertson Parkway. Go through it again, and then when did you realize you saw on Skycam the plume of smoke?
So right at the start of the 6:30 half hour of News Channel 5 this morning, Ben Hill bring everybody back. And while, like you said, Rory, we can feel explosions at times, you get blasting with all kinds of construction projects, this was different. This was incredibly loud, and the building shook like an earthquake. I mean, we felt the ground shake. It was just almost like, you know, there was some blasting happening outside of the construction site. Now, at that one point, one of the things that I noticed was we had blue sky around, and I took one of our sky cams, and if we can take a look at flash, this is kind of the plume of the smoke coming up. This is our sky cam that would be atop the AT&T tower, and it kind of looks like a lone little cloud there, but when we switch to our tower north of town, and notice this is at 6:31 a.m., right as the clock changed to 6:32 in the distance, you can clearly see where we have that unfortunate smoke plume from the explosion that happened. That was the only time today, just crystal clear sky. It was right at sunrise when that explosion happened. Now, to kind of take you to the area this is in downtown that we've been talking about, I've circled it here on a map as we just kind of zoom in. And this area right here, the tall red building that you see, this right here is that AT&T Switch Center. That's a 15-story building. It's about 192 feet up. And from the images that we have seen at times from Sky 5 as it has flown around the area, and let's just take a look at Sky 5 and see where they are right now, kind of still a long second. But if they were to look atop that building, the force of the explosion went 15 stories up and damaged the roof and kind of the facade around that building just from the sheer force of the explosion from the RV this morning, right there along Second. We're about 5 long blocks from it, from that building. And, I mean, again, saying it was like an earthquake, that is exactly what it felt like. So here we go with Sky 5 pilot Jason Morgan and chief photojournalist Mike Rose zooming in. We're 15 stories up here. We're 192 feet up. And the force of that explosion damaging right there alongside the top of that roof. And you can see debris on the roof. Another thing that happens where this is you get the tunnel effect. When you get wind energy that basically is condensed into a narrow space, and the sheer force of this explosion is causing that energy to basically bounce off of everything, if you will, and curve around the buildings. And
okay, that's the local news. Let's see what's going on with the national news. We'll keep it bipartisan. We'll see all of them. Fox News and CNN.
Just gotta think bigger. Whoa, this is so...
Days from now, what's the latest on his thinking on that?
That's all the fuck they want to talk about is that shit. Whole building blew up. They don't want to even talk about that. go back here.
I want to take everyone back through the fact
that not many people were in that area, otherwise this really could have gotten much worse. Something else to note, that people have been passing by here all day with such concern and confusion, and it's hard to even see the looks on their face. People were looking forward to enjoying Christmas morning after the year Nashville has experienced, of course, with the pandemic and the tornado, and now this. People just wanted to end, of course, on a positive note. Mayor John Cooper did want to reiterate to people that still spend some time and try to enjoy as much as you can with your family, despite the fact Christmas morning.
And his gun problems have vanished. Terrible.
Aaron Cantrell, who is live downtown, not far from News Channel 5 on James Robertson Parkway. Aaron, what are you seeing?
Well, we have some of those first responders here in the background still on standby. We saw some canines out earlier going around the City Hall courthouse building here, just doing a sweep just to make sure everything is safe. We just saw some of the police vehicles leave this scene and head to other parts of downtown, but we're still trying to figure out exactly.
back in March, but that was just blocks away from this location where we're showing you the explosion this morning. Then the pandemic impacting all of our downtown businesses and everyone across Metro Nashville as well. And now, just as everyone thought that 2020 was coming to a close, this happened Christmas morning. It is a bizarre situation that investigators are still trying to figure out, sifting through all the evidence. There's a lot of physical evidence, as you can see down there. They're bringing canines to help out and make sure that there's not any other explosives or danger for first responders as they are looking through that physical evidence, but also witness accounts, forensic evidence that they're going to be looking at online and on social media. This situation where we're hearing an RV was parked, shots were fired, whether they were a recording or real shots, we don't know, but then a recording of a voice telling anyone in the area to evacuate for at least 30 minutes, according to one of our witnesses, before she and her family went ahead and drove out of the area, and then the explosion went off. We are continuing to get surveillance footage from different homes and businesses in this area. We've received Nest footage from folks who own a condo really close to where this happened, who were thankfully out of the area and out of town at the time. It's just unbelievable to see the absolute devastation along a street that so many of us know well, 2nd Avenue, just off the heart of our downtown district. This is a look right now from Sky 5
About 30,
Live
45 minutes
over 2nd Avenue
This shit
between
crazy.
Church and Commerce, where you can see that char mark on the side of that red building where it appears to be ground zero, where the explosion went off around 6:30 this morning. Rory?
Yeah, we want to kind of zoom in a little bit and give you this Google Map view of 2nd Avenue. I mentioned one of the prettier avenues downtown with the tree-lined street going down, shooting off of Broadway, giving tourists and locals just kind of another option as they're downtown to stroll down this. I know Phil Williams and Mike Rose, 10 or so years ago, there were issues with some businesses, I remember, along 2nd because it was more of a nightclub-oriented area, and there would often be police responses with some fights and some rowdiness, but it's undergone a renaissance, that section of 2nd Avenue. More honky-tonks, more restaurants. As I mentioned, some of these buildings renovated with apartments above. As Nashville's downtown has grown, you'll see horse-drawn carriages coming down 2nd. So a really gorgeous part of downtown, and so sad to see the damage. We know the Melting Pot restaurant, Rodizio Grill we've mentioned, and some other businesses that have been there for some time.
And Rory, one of the things that occurs to me as we're looking at this Google Street View is that if the target had been these downtown nightclubs, you really would have set off a bomb a little bit further to the south, because in that area you have clubs on both sides of the street. This was set off outside the AT&T switching station, and as I recall, I don't think there's even anything on the building that labels it as being an AT&T facility, but it's not like a prime area where you would want to blow up businesses on both sides of the street. So that raises even more concerns about potentially that the AT&T building, might have been the target. And Mike Rose is up in Sky 5, and Mike, do you concur with that assessment?
Yeah, I got you, Phil.
Do you concur with that assessment?
Sorry,
that this might have been the right spot for hitting, nightclubs, for example?
Yeah, sorry, Phil, I missed your setup question there. We're dealing with what's called a TFR, temporary flight restriction. So we've had to reposition the helicopter kind of away from 2nd Avenue for the time being. We're trying to find out what the dimensions of the TFR is and how long it will.
Waiting for you. We need you to roll up your sleeves.
I'm trying to see it.
Have a big, news event where they do restrict the airspace. So we're kind of restricted to just kind of shooting down the little cane like I am right now, which is going to be kind of challenging in a helicopter situation. So I apologize, Phil. I wasn't able to kind of pay attention to your question there as we were making those adjustments.
Yeah, and my question, Mike, was you've been over the area. This is not a prime spot if you were wanting to target nightclubs, for example, because there are a limited number of businesses in this immediate block. Is that your assessment?
Yeah, I would say so. I remember just kind of, the history. 2nd Avenue seemed to be kind of the first place where the downtown area started to see some revitalization. So we had restaurants and clubs kind of coming in there. The Underground has always been a popular place down on 2nd Avenue. But then, Broadway kind of took off and pulled a lot of the, walkable tourism, to be quite frank, up and down Broadway. But you still have, your staples that are there, the Spaghetti Factory, the Wild Horse Saloon, like I mentioned, Hooters, the Underground, restaurants like that. But yeah, it seemed like the most of the pedestrian traffic had been focused on Lower Broad in more recent years.
All right, Mike Rose and Phil Williams were monitoring this. Nick Barris as well, digging into his sources. Temporary flight restriction right now, a TFR as Mike called it, so we pulled back a little bit. And Mike, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I do see some traffic moving on the interstate, so maybe some of the roads are now reopened. But I know when I came in a few hours ago, the south split was shut down, 65. The traffic was being diverted over to 40.
Yeah, they're all.
So